Look at her, pretending to be innocent.
On the day her family needed money the most, they sold her like a piece of land. Not to a rich man. Not to a handsome man. They sold her to a stranger nobody knew. A quiet man who looked like he had nothing. Her father took the money before she even said yes. Her mother did not look at her. Her sister laughed and said, "At least she is finally useful for something." Ada stood in that parlor, shaking, holding back tears, while her family counted 5 million Nigerian nairas like she was not even in the room. She did not know his name. She did not know his face. All she knew was this: she had 6 months to be his wife, and after that, she would be free. But nobody in that house knew who this quiet man really was. Not her father. Not her mother. Not even Ada herself. By the time she found out, it was already too late to protect her heart. The Okonkwo family compound sat quietly on Agri Road, the kind of house that used to be beautiful before the money ran out. Paint peeling on the walls. A generator that only worked on Sundays. A family holding on to pride they could no longer afford. Chief Okonkwo had debts. Big ones. The kind that made men stop sleeping at night. His daughter, F, was the favorite. F was the one they dressed well. F was the one they took to church in front seats. F was the one they planned a big wedding for, to a wealthy contractor's son. Ada was different. Ada cooked. Ada cleaned. Ada carried the family's shame quietly, like it was her job to carry it. "You have always been the sensible one," her mother used to tell her. But sensible, in that house, meant unwanted. So when a stranger came to the house that evening, introduced only as a business associate of Chief Okonkwo, nobody explained anything to Ada. She was called into the parlor like a child being punished. "Sit down," her father said. She sat. The man on the other side of the room did not look rich. Simple clothes. Simple shoes. Calm eyes that studied the room quietly, like he had seen everything already and nothing surprised him anymore. His name, they said, was Kelechi. "Kelechi needs a wife," her father said, like he was describing furniture. "For 6 months. Officially. On paper. It will solve our family's problem." Ada's chest tightened. "What problem, Papa?" Her father's eyes moved away from her. That was answer enough. 5 million Nigerian nairas, Kelechi said quietly. It was the first time he spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "For 6 months. After that, she is free to leave. No conditions. No shame. I will make sure of it." F laughed from the doorway, arms folded. "See her from cleaning pots to marrying a man like this." She looked Kelechi up and down. At least she has finally found her level. Ada's face burned. Her mother did not defend her. Her mother was already counting, in her head, how the money would save the family name. "Papa," Ada whispered. "Please don't do this." Chief Okonkwo did not look at her. "You will thank me one day." That night, Ada signed papers she barely understood, in a house full of people who claimed to love her, while nobody in that room looked her in the eye. Narrator, soft, painful. She was not getting married. She was being handed over. And the worst part, the man who paid for her hand looked more nervous than she was. Kelechi's house was small. Modest. A simple 2-bedroom flat on the outskirts of town, far from the noise of the city. No servants. No luxury. Just a clean, quiet space that smelled like fresh paint and calm mornings. Ada expected pain. She expected control. She expected a man who bought her to treat her like property. Instead, on her first night there, Kelechi showed her to her own room. "This is yours," he said. "I will not enter without knocking. Ever." Ada blinked, unsure how to respond to kindness after months of being treated like a burden. "You don't have to cook for me," he added. "You don't have to serve me. This is not that kind of marriage." "Then what kind of marriage is it?" Ada asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Kelechi paused. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something heavier than the calm mask he wore. "A necessary one," he said quietly. "For both of us." He did not explain further. And Ada, exhausted from a day that broke something inside her, did not ask again. That night, she cried silently into a pillow that did not belong to her, in a house that did not belong to her, married to a man she did not know. But somewhere in that silence, a small thought crossed her mind, a thought she was too ashamed to admit. "He was kind to me. Nobody has been kind to me in a long time." The days that followed surprised her. Kelechi left early every morning, dressed simply, saying only that he worked in logistics. He came home late, always tired, but always polite. He never raised his voice. He never asked her for anything she wasn't comfortable giving. Slowly, small routines formed between them. He noticed she liked her tea without sugar. She noticed he never finished his food without saying thank you to whoever cooked it, even when she insisted she didn't have to cook. One evening, the power went out. Ada sat in the dark kitchen, frustrated, tired from a long day of pretending everything was fine. Kelechi came in quietly, holding 2 candles. "May I sit?" he asked. She nodded. They sat in the flickering light, not saying much, just existing in the same space without pressure. "Why did you really marry me?" Ada finally asked. "You don't need a wife for money. Anyone can see you're not desperate for that." Kelechi looked at the candle flame for a long moment. "There are things I can't explain yet," he said. "But I promise you, I will never make you regret trusting me." "That's not an answer." "I know," he said gently. "But it's the truth I can give you right now." Ada studied his face in the candlelight, tired eyes, steady hands, a calmness that felt earned, not natural. For the first time since her father sold her hand like a business deal, Ada felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Narrator. She did not know it yet, but this quiet man, in this small house, was already becoming the first person in her life to make her feel like she mattered. But peace like this never lasts long in a story built on secrets. 2 months into the marriage, Ada's family called. Not to check on her. Not to ask if she was safe. They called because F's wedding was coming, and they needed her to help prepare, for free, of course. "Bring your husband," her mother said on the phone, voice syrupy sweet. "Let people see that even you managed to get married." Ada arrived at the family house with Kelechi beside her, and the moment they walked in, the whispers started. "Is this the husband? The one who bought her? He looks like nothing. Chief Okonkwo really scraped the bottom for this one." F approached, dressed in a shimmering gown, diamonds on her wrist courtesy of her wealthy fiancé. She looked at Kelechi like he was an insect that wandered into her party. "So this is the famous 5 million Nigerian naira's husband," F said loudly, making sure the room heard. "I hope he at least knows how to open doors for you, since that's probably his only job skill." Laughter rippled through the room. Ada's fists clenched at her sides. "F, please." "No, let her talk," Kelechi said quietly, placing a calm hand on Ada's shoulder. His face remained unreadable, patient. "You know," F continued, emboldened, "some of us marry for love. Real love. With men who can actually provide." She gestured toward her fiancé, dripping in expensive fabric. "Some of us just get sold to whoever offers cash." The room laughed again. Ada felt her eyes burn, but she refused to cry in front of these people. "You married poverty," her mother added coldly, walking past Ada without even a greeting. "I hope you're proud of yourself." Kelechi's jaw tightened, the only sign that the words had landed. But he said nothing. He simply guided Ada gently toward a quiet corner, away from the noise. "Ignore them," he murmured. "How can I ignore my own family?" Ada whispered, voice breaking. "They've never once seen me as anything but a burden." Kelechi looked at her, something unreadable passing behind his calm eyes. "One day," he said quietly, "they will see you differently. I promise you that." Ada didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. Narrator. She thought he was just comforting her. She had no idea he was making a promise he already knew how to keep. Small things started happening. Things Ada noticed but couldn't explain. At a restaurant one evening, the manager personally came to their table, greeting Kelechi with a respect that seemed far too formal for a man who claimed to work in logistics. "Good evening, sir. Your usual table is ready, as always." Ada frowned. "You come here often?" Kelechi smiled faintly. "Once in a while." Another time, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up beside them at a fuel station, and the driver stepped out just to greet Kelechi with a respectful bow of the head before driving off without another word. "Who was that?" Ada asked. "An old associate," Kelechi replied, changing the subject smoothly. "Then there was the watch." Ada noticed it one morning, peeking from under his sleeve as he adjusted his jacket, simple, understated, but she had seen enough of F's fiancé's magazine features to recognize the brand. It cost more than her family's entire house. "Kelechi," she said slowly, "why do you have a watch like that?" He glanced down at his wrist, almost like he forgot he was wearing it. "A gift," he said simply. "From a long time ago." Ada wanted to press further, but something in his eyes told her not to. Not yet. At night, she lay awake, piecing together fragments that didn't fit the story she'd been told. A quiet man in a small house who somehow made powerful people nervous. A logistics worker who restaurant managers bowed to. "Who are you, really?" she wondered. She didn't ask him directly. Something told her the truth would come on its own, in its own time. She was right. F's wedding reception was held at the Grand Meridian, the most expensive hotel in the city, a place with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a guest list full of the city's wealthiest families. Ada wasn't supposed to be there long. Her mother had made it clear, come, greet people, and leave quietly. Don't embarrass us. Kelechi came with her, dressed simply as always, standing beside her while F's family paraded their wealth for the entire hall to see. It didn't take long before F found them. Oh look, the cleaner and her bicycle husband decided to grace us with their presence, F announced loudly, drawing eyes from nearby tables. Her new husband smirked beside her. F, please, Ada said quietly, not tonight. Why not tonight? F pressed, clearly enjoying the attention. You should be grateful we even let you in here. Look at him. She gestured dismissively at Kelechi. I bet he's never even stepped foot in a place like this before. The hall grew quieter, guests turning to watch the scene unfold, some laughing behind their hands. You people should know your place, F continued, voice rising with confidence. This hotel is for real people. People with real money. Not 5 million Nigerian Naira's husbands who probably can't even pay for their own drink here. Ada's eyes stung with humiliation. She reached for Kelechi's hand, ready to leave, ready to disappear from this room forever. But Kelechi didn't move. He simply looked around the grand hall, calm as ever, and said quietly, interesting that you'd say that. Before F could respond, the hotel's general manager appeared, rushing through the crowd with visible urgency, followed closely by 2 more staff members in formal suits. Sir, the general manager said, slightly breathless, bowing his head. We didn't realize you were joining us tonight. Is everything to your satisfaction? Should we move you to the presidential suite lounge, as usual? The entire hall fell into stunned silence. F's smile faltered. What is he talking about? The general manager looked between F and Kelechi, confused by her tone. Sir, forgive me if there's been a misunderstanding, but this is Mr. Kelechi Adigwe, owner of the Meridian Hotel Group. Gasps rippled through the crowd like wildfire. F's face went pale. That's not possible. I assure you it is, the manager said carefully. Ada turned to Kelechi, her heart pounding, mouth open in shock. You own this hotel? Kelechi's calm eyes met hers, something apologetic softening his expression. I own this one, he said quietly. And 11 others across the country. Narrator, slow, powerful. The man they called poor. The man they mocked at a wedding. The man F said couldn't afford a drink in his own hotel. Owned the entire building they were standing in. The whispers spread through the hall like fire through dry grass. That's Kelechi Adigwe? The Adigwe Group? I read about him in Forbes Africa. He built his empire from nothing after leaving his family's business. Wait, he's that Kelechi? The one who never shows his face publicly? Chief Okonkwo, who had been drinking quietly near the bar, nearly dropped his glass when he heard the name. His face went through several colors: confusion, disbelief, and finally, dawning horror. He had sold his daughter's hand for 5 million Nigerian nairas to a man worth billions. He hadn't even known. Ada's mother rushed over, her earlier coldness replaced by a desperate, syrupy warmth. Kelechi. My son. We had no idea, forgive our informal manner earlier, You called him a gatekeeper, Ada said quietly, staring at her mother, something breaking loose inside her chest, not sadness now, but clarity. F called him poor. You told me I married poverty. The hall was dead silent, every eye watching the Okonkwo family unravel in real time. Now you stand inside his hotel, Ada continued, voice trembling but strong, eating his food, drinking his wine, and only now you remember how to smile at him. F, still frozen near her new husband, looked like she might faint. I didn't know, she stammered. I would never have said those things if I knew. That's exactly the problem, Kelechi said calmly, stepping forward, his voice carrying clearly across the silent hall. You only show respect to people you think are worth something. Ada was never worth anything to you. Not because of her money. Because of her heart. And that never mattered to this family. Chief Okonkwo approached, sweat forming on his brow. Kelechi, my son, surely we can discuss. There is nothing to discuss, Kelechi said, his tone still calm but final. You sold your daughter like she was a debt to be settled. I paid because I saw a woman being crushed by people who were supposed to protect her. Not because I needed a wife for 6 months. Ada's breath caught. What does that mean? Kelechi turned to her, and for the first time all night, his composed mask slipped, revealing something raw underneath. It means I never needed a temporary wife, Ada. I needed to get you out of that house before it broke you completely. Later that night, away from the noise and the stairs, Kelechi and Ada sat in the quiet garden behind the hotel, string lights glowing softly above them. Explain it to me, Ada said softly. All of it. From the beginning. Kelechi exhaled slowly. I met your father through a business deal 2 years ago. During negotiations, I heard him talk about you, not kindly. He called you his spare daughter. Said you were the one he wished he never had to feed. Ada's throat tightened. I looked into your family quietly after that, Kelechi continued. I saw how you were treated. I saw the debts your father was drowning in, and I knew, eventually, he would try to sell you off to solve his problems, through marriage, through favors, through whatever way benefited him. So you got there first, Ada whispered. I got there first, he confirmed. I offered the money because I knew it was the only language your father understood. I made it 6 months because I didn't want to trap you in anything you didn't choose freely. I wanted to give you time. Time to see that you could be treated with respect. Time to decide, on your own, if you wanted to stay. Tears slipped down Ada's face, but they weren't from pain this time. You did all of that, for a stranger? You were never a stranger to me, Kelechi said quietly. I noticed you long before that night in your parlor. At your cousin's engagement party, over a year ago. You were the only person in the room helping the caterers clean up spilled food while everyone else complained about the mess. Nobody saw you. But I did. Ada stared at him, memories flooding back, a quiet man in the corner of that party, someone she barely registered because nobody ever taught her to expect anyone to notice her. Why didn't you just tell me all this from the beginning? She asked, voice trembling. Because I needed you to choose me for who I was in that small house, Kelechi said. Not for what I owned. I needed to know if you could love a man with nothing, before I ever showed you what I actually had. But even good intentions leave bruises. Ada stood, arms wrapped around herself, the warmth of his confession colliding with something heavier, betrayal, however gently intended. You still lied to me, she said quietly. 4 months, Kelechi. You let me believe things that weren't true. You let me struggle, wondering what kind of man had bought me, while you already knew everything. That's not fair to me. Kelechi didn't argue. He simply nodded, accepting the weight of her words. You're right. It wasn't fair. I told myself I was protecting you, but the truth is, I was also protecting myself, from the fear that if you knew everything too soon, you'd never see me as anything other than my money. That fear doesn't erase the lie, Ada said, her voice breaking. I trusted you in that dark kitchen, with candles, when I had nothing left to trust anyone with. And you let me believe I was building trust with a man who barely existed. I know, Kelechi said softly. And I won't ask you to forgive that quickly. I just need you to know none of what happened between us in that house was fake. Not one conversation. Not one quiet evening. That man in the candlelight, that was me too. The real me. Just, without the weight of everything else. Ada turned away, tears falling freely now, torn between the anger of being deceived and the memory of 100 small kindnesses that had felt more real than anything her own family ever gave her. I need time, she finally said. Take all the time you need, Kelechi answered. I'm not going anywhere. The weeks that followed were quiet, careful. Ada moved into a private space within the Adigwe estate, her own wing, her own choice, no pressure. Kelechi kept his promise, giving her the space to breathe, to think, to decide what she truly wanted without the weight of his empire pressing down on her. Word of what happened at the wedding spread through the city. Ada's family, humiliated publicly, tried repeatedly to reach her, calls, messages, even visits to the estate gates. Chief Okonkwo, once cold and dismissive, now begged for an audience like a man realizing too late what he'd thrown away. Ada didn't answer immediately. For once in her life, she chose herself first. One evening, she found Kelechi in the estate's modest garden, the one part of the property he'd built to remind him of simpler days, he told her once. I've been thinking, she said, sitting beside him. About? About why you never once made me feel small in that little house, she said. Even when you had every reason to remind me who you were, you never did. You let me feel human, when my own family only ever made me feel like a mistake. Kelechi turned to her fully. You were never a mistake, Ada. Not to me. Not for one single day. I'm still hurt, she admitted. But I don't think I want to walk away from what we built. I just need you to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets, Ada said firmly. Whatever this becomes, real marriage, real partnership, I need honesty. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Kelechi took her hand gently, the same calm steadiness she'd first trusted in that dark kitchen months ago. I promise you, Ada. From today, there is nothing about me you won't know. Months later, Chief Okonkwo finally received the meeting he'd been begging for, not because Kelechi owed him anything, but because Ada asked for it herself. The family arrived at the estate humbled, dressed carefully, clearly hoping to rebuild a relationship they had spent years neglecting. Ada, her father began, voice unsteady, we made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. We treated you like I didn't matter, Ada finished quietly. Yes. You did. no longer surrounded by an admiring crowd, looked smaller than Ada had ever seen her. I said horrible things to you, she admitted, eyes down. I was jealous. I always felt like you had something I didn't, even when you had nothing. I don't fully understand it, but I'm sorry. Ada studied her family for a long moment, the people who once counted money in front of her like she wasn't in the room, who called her sensible as a way of saying unwanted. I forgive you, she finally said. Not because you deserve it right now. But because I refuse to carry the same bitterness you carried toward me. I want peace. Real peace. Not because I need your approval anymore, I don't. But because I choose not to let your mistakes control who I become. Her mother wept quietly. Her father lowered his head, the weight of shame finally settling where it belonged. It wasn't a perfect reunion. Trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild, if it rebuilds at all. But it was a beginning, an honest one, built on truth instead of performance. A year after that first cold night in her family's parlor, Ada stood in a different room, wearing a different kind of dress, one she chose herself, for a wedding she chose with her whole heart. This time, there was no envelope of cash exchanged in a parlor. No father counting money while his daughter's future was decided without her voice. This time, Kelechi stood in front of her, in front of family, friends, and the quiet dignity they had both fought to protect. I didn't marry you because of a contract, he said, holding her hands. I married you because somewhere between a dark kitchen and a candle running low, I fell in love with a woman who never once let bitterness win. You taught me that real strength doesn't shout. It endures. Ada smiled through happy tears. You taught me that I was never the spare daughter they called me. I was simply waiting for someone patient enough to see me. Narrator, soft, warm, closing. She was the bride they threw away. The daughter nobody wanted. The woman they mocked in a hotel she didn't know she'd one day call home. But love, real love, doesn't check price tags. It sees people when nobody else bothers to look. And sometimes, the 6 months meant to be an escape, becomes the beginning of forever. They sold her for 5 million Nigerian nairas, thinking she was worth nothing more. They never imagined that the man who paid for her hand would be the one to finally show her what she was always worth, everything.